A federal judge in Maryland handed Elon Musk and his Doge efforts another legal setback yesterday, ordering the government to reinstate USAID and saying the shutdown of the foreign aid agency, quote, likely violated the United States Constitution in multiple ways. President Trump and the world's richest man immediately blasted that ruling, with the president promising to appeal and claiming there were rogue judges who were destroying our country. I want to bring in New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof, who just finished a reporting trip to South Sudan to look at the impacts already from cutting foreign aid. And Nicholas, you write that people have already died because of these cuts to USAID. Now, a judge is saying these cuts are unconstitutional in multiple ways, ordering things to be restored. But is it too late?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm delighted the judge made this ruling and he acknowledged the apparent illegality of Musk's acts. But, you know, it is great that he restored email access to USAID employees who were on administrative leave. But this doesn't actually reverse the cancellation of programs that were keeping people alive. And so at the end of the day, kids in places like South Sudan are still dying, still not getting their nutritional support, not getting their AIDS medication. And that fundamentally is what has to happen to keep people alive.
You write about children dying because they didn't have medicine for HIV or the kind of basic food needs that were there for families to keep people from starving. And this is a line that you write that really, really got me. You never forget the sight of children starving to death. So I wish White House officials could have been with me on this trip to South Sudan, where 70% of nutrition assistance has come from the United States. Tell us more about what you saw with your own eyes and what you heard from people there. What are the stories that are just now seared into your memory?
You know, Anna, I mean, the thing that just, I think, shattered me the most was I was way off in the northwest corner of South Sudan, and I visited an area that traditionally had not had health care. And some women were dying routinely in childbirth, and newborns were dying. And then in December, a U.S.-funded maternity clinic had opened there. And, you know, so I show up at the clinic, I ask questions, and people mistakenly assume that I'm somehow responsible for bringing this maternity clinic. And everybody is thanking me. They're thanking America for its generosity. They're saying that women are safe here now. A woman who was then in labor wants to name her baby after me. And what they don't know is that because of Musk's decisions, they've just canceled that program, and that maternity clinic is now about to close. And those women, again, are going to be bleeding to death in the dust there. And I mean, that's just, you know, when you see in front of you these pregnant women who now are going to be left to die in childbirth, it just breaks your heart.
Yeah, it really also broke my heart to learn of the 10-year-old boy named Peter that you write about, who had HIV, died in February, you were told, because no longer had access to the medicines that he needed. He's an orphan, and there are, unfortunately, countless others who are in the same shoes. I want to play part of your interview with a Sudanese health worker, and you asked if he had heard of Elon Musk and his claim that no one had died from USAID cuts. Let's watch.
Does that name mean anything?
No, I've never heard about it. No.
So what would you tell him? What would you tell Elon
And
Musk?
Moses said, well,
That's a wrong message, because if you wanted to learn something, you come in the grassroots. Like example, you come on the grassroots. I can take you to the facility, you see the file for children. Those children, somebody I will call them, you see them. This is what I can tell you.
It may be easy for some Americans to kind of keep this at an arm's length because they aren't there in person to hear that or to see what you've seen. To those Americans who think, gosh, this is all so awful, but it's not our own responsibility for Americans to solve all of the world's problems, what would you say to them?
I'd say two things, Anna. I mean, first, we celebrate a firefighter who rescues a single child. Well, American taxpayers have been doing that in a huge scale with USAID. Those kids that we were talking about, Peter, a 10-year-old, Akil, an 8-year-old who died, Evan, a 5-year-old boy who died, they were being kept alive by the U.S. for 12 cents a day per person. And this was a kind of heroic thing that the U.S. had done, but that just ended in January. And I think the second thing I'd say is that American aid advances our values, but it also protects our interests. And, we confront China not only with aircraft carriers, but also with aid programs. And we protect America from viruses, from pandemics, in part by acting abroad. It's a lot easier to fight Ebola in Uganda, to monitor avian flu around the world, to keep polio at bay in Pakistan, than it is to fight these diseases at home. And as we shut this down, that will mean more Americans getting sick and dying.
Nicholas Kristof, amazing reporting. I encourage everybody to go and log on to see all of it laid out so beautifully on the New York Times website. Thank you very much for sharing some of what you learned with all of us.